some uses for Azure Spatial Anchors. There are multiple apps that you can create with Azure Spatial Anchors. A really good use case is anytime that you need to tie a specific information to a specific place. For example, if you're in a big building and if you want your users to find their way around, you can put breadcrumbs around and they can detect these spatial anchors and find their way. Another good use case is if you're in a big supermarket or a warehouse and it's really hard to know where things are, you can put specific product information to specific places. So when you're far away, you can see which way to go depending on your purpose. And these are all business use cases. For a more fun application, check out Minecraft Earth.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, well, welcome to the XR Global Conference. Hi, everybody. Stephen Christian is an AR producer and an entrepreneur. Stephen's also a medical student at the University of Reno. Stephen concentrates on creating projects that educate, entertain, and empower the next generation of creators. So welcome, Stephen. Begin your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to share my screen right now and we will get onto it. Okay, and I believe, yep, there we go. Today, again, my name is Stephen Christian. Today, we'll be talking about interdisciplinary approaches to augmented reality, education, and entertainment. Again, like she said, I am an XR creator, an AR creator specifically. I'm also a medical student at the University of Nevada, Reno, and I'm also the owner and founder of a independent studio called Iltopia Studios. And at Iltopia Studios, we focus on making comics and cartoons that educate, entertain, and empower. And the underlying technology behind that is a true innovation in and of itself. We focus on creating books and experiences that you don't need to know how to read to enjoy. And I think that's a very empowering thing for not only new readers, but people that are non-traditional to either education or other forms of entertainment. And so, like I said before, I'm a content creator, I'm a producer, I am an entrepreneur, a medical student. And what I like to say is that I focus on making stuff for educational and entertainment platforms to pay for medical school. And so we'll see how that goes. But I'm definitely confident that the way things are going with XR in particular, not only in the United States, but globally, has a lot of opportunities for really changing a lot of people's lives, even mine, if as I'm going through this journey to be a physician. And so I hold a lot of titles, and I think my goal with education and entertainment in XR really stems from me holding a lot of titles. I don't think that my approach and my journey and what I do in my career is mutually exclusive from that. And so, like, I'm a retired football player. I played football in college at Oregon State, and I was an animator. I was injured and also had to retire. I'm a college instructor. I create comics. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a writer. I'm a Unity certified 3D artist and instructor. I like to do web development, podcasting, and at Iltopia, a lot of the stuff that I do is full stack AR development for mobile devices. And so there's just a lot of things that go into just my day to day sort of career ventures. And I think for me, that's been very, very formative because it allows me to look at things that are happening in the industry, and then also have the skills and the ability to uh, teach those things, introduce people to new ideas, and then hopefully provide an asset or a service to people that betters my community. And so here's just a little bit of the work that I do, and we'll get a glimpse of essentially like who I am as a creator and what I come with. And so what you saw there in that video is not only just like what my interests are, but what the skill set is that I have. And so it's a mesh of the stuff that I want to pursue personally and the stuff that I want to pursue professionally. And often I deal with developing projects and working with clients that stem from my interests. And they often come to me based off of the things that I create and I put out into the world to hopefully help them do that same thing. And so it's for me as an AR developer and navigating my career in XR, it's it's so much a part of my interactions are so much a part of the creative journey that I really can't separate the two. And as I talk to a lot of different creators and developers, uh, there's a similar feeling and there's a similar experience with a lot of creators specifically. And I think that is with the gig economy that we have and how things are changing uh, in various economies. I think that's going to start being the norm. And the lines are going to be blurred between what you have professional interest in, what you have skills in doing, and what you're able to do personally and turn those into actual creative projects that generate revenue for yourself. And so, in a nutshell, I combine art and technology to create entertaining and educational experiences. That's ultimately what I do. And when you see a lot of my work, there's always going to be this entertaining component, and then there's this educational component. And hopefully, you pull from it whatever you want. It could be just a 30 seconds of joy or inspiration to pursue or integrate something into the projects that you're doing. And so the thing that I've had to deal with in my career, because I think I've been in XR for about 2 to 3 years, and I've been an animator and in the creative industry for the past 10 years, it's that I have been labeled as a generalist. And the label of being a generalist is, you know, in some ways, in some industries, like a red flag where you don't specialize in one thing, but you have a lot of experiences in a variety of things. And by not specializing, it's really difficult to be hireable for one role in a company. And I think that's really antithetical. Being a specialist in one specific thing is really antithetical to what I do as a creator, because I'm in the business of building immersive experiences for users to enjoy. And so that requires me to have a variety of skill sets and understand a variety of disciplines to pull these things off. If I don't have that foundation, I don't have that understanding, then the experiences won't be as compelling for people to engage in. And so often, my job isn't necessarily being the best animator or being the best audio designer or being the best storyteller. It's often exploring those nuances to integrate seamlessly these areas into different projects. And so in a creative industry where it's predicated on hiring a bunch of specialists, I really found myself in this difficult position where I didn't know where to go, and I didn't want to lose myself in this journey of finding a career. I will say as a caveat, or as a side note, that like all that kind of went out the window when I started my own business and when I got into medical school. And so my life is personally changed, but the things that I've learned over the past 10 years of being a creator have allowed me to approach education in a particular way, and particularly just creating AR experiences that often have difficulties finding a footing in the consumer area. There's a lot of business to business solutions that you could, skill up for and teach for. But how do you create a consumer facing AR experiences that are accessible and that are memorable and that can compete or be on the same level as a YouTube video or a book? And so that's where most of my stuff sort of fits in, where I need to know how to uh, write creatively so I can create narratives that grab people's attention. I need to know how to tell stories visually because we live in this visual, ecosystem where people were more likely to watch something than they are to read something. Also need to understand sound design because music is such a big and integral part of how we experience things. We literally have soundtracks to our lives. And so if you don't know how to integrate sound and dialogue and sound effects into your storytelling experience, it just doesn't work. And then you need to understand software development. You need to know how to code. You need to know how to open up Visual Studio and integrate things, integrate technology so that the storytelling experiences have user interactivity into it. Because otherwise, you're no better than a YouTube video if you can't incorporate some sort of interactivity into it, whether it's turning a page or it's coding some sort of UI so that when you press a button, something happens in the middle of that story or the AR experience. And then obviously, animation is a big key. If you have sound, you also have to have animation because animation really drives the experience forward. We see a lot of these different demos and stuff of AR, and we have the beauty of experiencing things with technology in real time, such as real time rendering with Unity and Unreal. But at the end of the day, it's still animation. And so with animation, you need to understand how to use 2D, how to use 3D, how to use motion graphics so that you make your storytelling experience so much more dynamic. And then lastly, because we're talking about being able to create experiences, you have to understand product development and being able to package experiences into something that users can open up and enjoy with the most minimal effort possible. And I always like to think of, when we had DVDs, it's you go to the store, you get a DVD, you pop it in your DVD player, and you enjoy the experience. If we could get AR experiences to be that simple, and we could teach how to create AR experiences that are that simple, then that is where the applications of these skills go the furthest, because these address specific issues that the industry has in and of itself. And I think that future generations, people that are learning how to develop these experiences now, will find those answers because they come in with a wealth of new experiences and new approaches that are relevant to them because they live these things on a day-to-day basis. For somebody that grew up uh, with CDs and floppy disks and all that, I'm learning and evolving and trying to relearn and unlearn things that I grew up on. Whereas the future generations, this is all they know. And so they're just going to come with it with a fresh set of eyes that is really powerful. And so this leads me to this question of, in this current landscape where we know where things are going and we know what we're leaving, what skills do you teach first? What skills do you teach first? And more specifically, how do you teach skills for roles that are currently emerging, right? There's not a lot of them, but aren't necessarily widely available yet. So there's not a lot of them, but as jobs become more integrated into XR, you're going to need to know that skill set, and you just need to know how to do the things so that you can fill that role and fill that job. And so things do get blurred where there are going to be specialists, but that's going to be later down the line. Most people are just going to be looking for AR and VR developers, people that can just use the technology and they understand, they have a foundation of how to approach it. And so that leads me to the topic of this, which is interdisciplinary approaches. And so an interdisciplinary approach is a way of solving problems by addressing questions and thinking outside the box. And you do that by using a variety of skills that you've developed into a specific solution. And so when we're talking about interdisciplinary stuff, we're talking about really just thinking outside the box. It's just a big buzzword for thinking outside the box. You have a box that contains a lot of basic understandings of things. You open up that box, you take those elements out and just spread them on the table, and you see how far it goes. And what we're doing is we're confronting this notion that things need to be compartmentalized. And by confronting that notion, you're able to address what we all sort of feel and think, which is we don't really care what box it comes from as long as it helps us and serves a purpose. And so another word for saying that is we don't care what we know or how we know it or what we're able to do with it as long as it's relevant to our lives. And so if I'm a person that just wants to know how, if I want to just make a cartoon, then I just need to know how to animate just enough. I need to know what specific things to do in software so that I can create my animated show. I don't need to know everything. I just need to know the specific skills that are needed to solve the problem. And so that could be education. It could be understanding of family dynamics. It could be art. It could be math. It could be understanding business. Maybe you're a sports fanatic. Maybe you just have a lot of friends and you know how to develop friendships. Maybe you're just interested in science. All those things sum up to developing an applicable skill for that specific context. And so, how do you make AR education relevant? Because what we're talking about is developing a skill set and a level of understanding for a specific medium of technology. And I say medium of technology because we experience things in AR. We don't just do things for the sake of AR. AR is just like, you know, a medium just like a book, or AR is a medium just like a video or animation. It's just a medium by which we engage in experiences. And the approach of making it relevant, that is completely subjective because interdisciplinary approaches and studies is completely subjective. Somebody that has a background in specific things will approach a problem and address this question differently using the same methodology. And really, this often stems from just our personal interests, our experiences, and our expertise. And so, regardless of how it looks, the goal is it's still going to be interdisciplinary if you think outside the box. And so, what we do when we're thinking outside the box is we're really exploring this concept of what if. And what if is this concept that I took from this methodology of Afrofuturism, which all it does is reimagine a more equitable future for marginalized populations from the African diaspora. And so it asks and compels you to ask, what if to reimagine an alternate reality that changes preconceived notions and understandings about just anything? And so, in a nutshell, Afrofuturism, all it does is it unchains the mind so that you could approach things from a fresh lens. And what this means and how it plays out is it just says that in order to innovate, you have to imagine. And if you can't imagine things, then you're hindering the opportunities for innovation. And so a few examples I just sort of think about when I look at the intersections of innovation and Black culture, and as it pertains to Afrofuturism, We look at Missy Elliott or Grace Jones or Garrett Morgan or Will I Am, a lot of people in the past and contemporary that have redefined images and really paved the way for how we see the world now. And so when we're talking about making things culturally relevant, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about finding ways to integrate culture into our education and our entertainment, and not shying away from culture as you add more technology, but integrating culture into that technology so that it becomes more accessible. And in many ways, it's really just being able to meet people where they're at and communicate in the mode that they communicate in. Because skills are skills, they're indiscriminate of any of our backgrounds, but being able to understand why those skills are relevant and being able to understand how you can apply those skills, that's all done through understanding culture and integrating through a cultural lens. And so how and why do we learn technology? It's like, what's the whole point of all this stuff, right? The preconceived notion, specifically with emerging tech, is you want to skill up, you want to learn technical skills, and you do that by taking classes and doing tutorials and just developing some sort of technical expertise. And then, in order to show that technical expertise, you develop a portfolio based off of the projects that you've done to show the competency of the things that you've learned. And so then you take that portfolio and then you go out and you try to build a career off of that portfolio. You apply to jobs with it, you add to that portfolio, and you use your career, you build a career based off of your technical expertise. And then you just rinse and repeat until you retire. The interesting thing about it is that we don't learn technology to develop skills and build careers. That's generally not how people or why people learn technology. But the thing is that, like, the unspoken reason we learn technology is to explore ideas. If you don't have ideas to explore, if you're not inspired to pursue something, pursue an idea that you have, then the technology is irrelevant to you. It could come in the form of a career, but ultimately it's an idea that you have to explore, and technology is a way to explore that idea. And so when it comes to XR, what I firmly believe is that extending the reality and making things more accessible starts with the imagination. You have to imagine something before you could actually pursue it. It's your roadmap. And as an educator that does a lot of stuff on a variety of platforms, and I meet a lot of people just based off of the work that I do, I often get confronted with this question of how do you come up with ideas to explore? And so this is just a screenshot of one of the people that just reached out to me and asked me. And I get this so often, and it resonates with me because I remember how I was and where I was when I was asking the same question. And I realized how frustrated I was once I learned everything of how much of a void there is in just the basic understanding of how to use this level of technology for something. I have the skill set, but I don't know what to do with it. That's the worst feeling in the world because you're at a standstill and you're just not empowered to control your creativity and control your destiny. And so, in true storyteller fashion, I have a story for you. So I obviously am a medical student and I like to just unwind whenever I have just a rough day because medical school it's not for the weary. It's it could really take its toll on you. And so sometimes I just want to just take a step back from school and just enjoy myself. And so, like true millennial fashion, I hop on TikTok and I just sort of see what's out there. And one of the interesting things is I ended up stumbling upon a dance trend that, you know, that was just on TikTok one day. And so what I did is I ended up actually engaging with that dance trend. And so I made my own dance. I got my mocap suit, and I just wanted to see how I could participate in the dance trend. This is in sort of like millennial talk. This is, this sort of just like being tapped in, where I wanted to do what I wanted to engage in a way that made me feel a part of something. And if we've all been around during the pandemic, uh, that's really all we had uh, at the beginning of 2020, in the middle of 2020, when the pandemic hit. Everybody was just on their phones doing TikTok dances, engaging in a community, even if they couldn't physically be there. And so I figured I'd do that too. And so what I ended up doing was just creating something and putting it out there. After I did that, what I decided to do was just say, like, okay, what if I was to add my own little twist on it? What if I just reimagined it? And so this is ultimately what I uh, ended up wanting to imagine.
Cause after all this time, yes, so into you. I should be over all the butterflies, but I'm into you. And baby, even on our worst nights, I'm into you.
And so with that, I was like, what would it look like if I took that video, took something that I was sort of participating in, and instead of just learning the dance, I could learn the dance and then learn how to, explore it with the animation. And so what I did is I just, live streamed my process, and I opened up Unity and said, okay, I have the mocap stuff, I have my mocap data. Let me just create this experience with animation. And so when I did that, I ended up with this project.
Cause after all this time, yes, so into you. I should be over all the butterflies, but I'm into you. And baby, even on our worst nights, I'm into you. Into you. And baby, even on our worst nights.
And so being able to live stream this process and work in real time, using technology to explore ideas, it allowed me to not only connect with people, be on this open platform that and have people have access to a process that you would otherwise only be able to get if you had an internship and if you had just access to people. And so just being available in this platform using technology allowed me to share and inspire people, and then ultimately create something that people will just be like, I never thought you could do it like that. Let me try it. And so I just went back to the drawing board and said, okay, I explored what if this trend was an animation. So now, what if this trend was in animation, but also in AR? And that's essentially what I decided to do. And so took the same assets, recycled a lot of things, added a different approach. And because I understand how AR can be used and how real-time rendering can be used and how all this stuff is just using animation and sound and combining this into an immersive experience, I just built out this experience. And so this is what I ended up coming up with and posting on TikTok.
Cause after all this time, yes, so into you. I should be over all the butterflies, but I'm into you. And baby, even on our worst nights, I'm into you. Into you. And baby, even on our worst nights, I'm into you. Into you. And baby, even on our worst nights, I'm into you. Into you.
And so in that video, right, you saw animation, you saw ground plane tracking, you saw real-time rendering, you even saw integrations with the real world in real time. And this was all done from a phone, right? So I just developed it on a computer, put it on my phone, and I just hit play and played the experience out. and it just worked out seamlessly. And being able to build out this experience requires a level of understanding, requires a foundation in the technology, and it requires a certain skill set and approach that people are making a lot of money doing. I just remember seeing with the Eternals, they created an AR experience that you could download right now based off of their movie. And they put a lot of money into that, and people made a living working on those experiences. And so, if you could use the same tools to make that stuff and pursue your ideas and put those out, you're literally creating a pathway for yourself that stems from your interests. And you don't have to compromise your creativity and compromise the approaches to your creativity to pursue a career, because it all integrates into itself. And so when I come back from all these things, when I finish posting my videos and doing all that stuff, it ultimately comes down to, like, what are my deliverables and what do I have to show for this journey that I went on? And ultimately, what is the message that I pull from that I could share with other people? How do you engage with the community once you finish creating something? And that's ultimately what I am often tasked with when I have a whole lot of recordings and I have all these just videos and just stories to tell. And so I'll revisit project recordings, I'll package them up, and I'll just start sharing and distributing them. And so those come in the form of project demos, which is what you saw in the previous video. And those can be on social media, and those are just really just to engage in trends and inspire others to just think outside the box just a little bit. And then from there, I might make some creative time-lapse videos. And those are just really just adding some music, taking the full recording and just showing literally a start to finish, going from a blank canvas to, something a full experience, and having people just follow along in that journey over the course of a couple of minutes. And then from there, I can revisit the steps that I took to create these projects, and I just create a step-by-step guide. And that step-by-step guide is really just a map or a pathway for others to create the projects the way I did. And this is important because this is the skill building part. You develop skills by just knowing how to do things in certain contexts. If you know things in certain arenas, you have skills, and you could translate those skills once you get more familiar with it. And so from there, you could create 1-minute tutorial videos from the step-by-step guides that you have with some visual components from your time lapses. And then you could have a detailed walkthrough blog that has a little bit more of a narrative to it that says why you're going to be doing these certain actions within your skill set. And then lastly, you could put it all together by having a full online course based on your creative process that teaches people exactly how you created the thing. It's pretty much like having an internship in your pocket. And so the method behind this stuff is like, why do you go through doing all this stuff for some videos that you just post on TikTok, right? A variety of reasons, right? Companies spend a lot of money doing market research and product development. And they do that stuff to build a community around the ideas that they have and that they want to share. It's really expensive to do this stuff, and people pay big money for it. By integrating this into your creative process and learning how to educate and entertain people through the same methodology that big box companies use, you're able to not only research and find intersections and find avenues that you can fit in, but you do research to see just like what's happening in the world. What are people doing? What are people interested in? Then you develop products based off of just going through this creative journey and developing deliverables that are culturally relevant, that are based on things from the community, that are accessible to a broad audience. And so when you have these products that you have, you're able to build a community around them. And this ultimately creates a safe space for people to uh, enjoy the things that you enjoy. Me, I enjoy anime, I enjoy video games, I enjoy animation, I enjoy all these different things. And I also want to know how to create in these arenas that I otherwise probably wouldn't have access to if I didn't have my computer. And so I'm pretty sure there's other people that feel the same way I do, that want to do the same things that I enjoy doing, but they just don't know where to start, or they just don't have any support. And so by being available and creating in this format as an educator and as an entertainer, you can inspire others to uh, just pursue the things that they're interested in that align with your interests. And so a couple of more examples that I have are, just AR experiences that again allow me to explore the what if using art and technology. And so the one right here is like it's an AR experience where it's image tracking and it integrates video into it. And so with this, it's like, what if your favorite character watched his favorite TV show in his living room and you were able to join them? And so you're watching the main character's favorite TV show with that main character in real time. Just think about just like what that actually means and how powerful that would be just as an experience within a story. The next one is I'm a big like anime fan, like I said, and growing up, I used to love this card game called Yu-Gi-Oh! And as I got older, I thought, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just an augmented reality card game. So what if I brought the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game to life using AR? And so using particles, using user interactions, animation, you could do all this stuff and integrate that into the card game that I enjoy. And so now this, what I thought was just fiction, can actually be real. And then lastly, I, was able to work on a few projects that involved a lot of social impact. And because of COVID, I really got to explore how AR could be used for social impact. And so with that, I really was allowed to create a 30-foot monument of members of the Black community and go in the middle of downtown and have an installation that didn't require me to have a permit. And I think that was very, very powerful because it allowed me to create something using technology and innovate in a way that really addressed a problem. But it stemmed from that idea of what if I could mitigate, very real consequences of engaging in social activism during COVID with minimal risk. And I was able to do that with AR. And so just to recap on this whole journey, right? Because I feel like we've been going through this for a little while. Just to recap, it's really focusing on coming up with ways to craft cool projects that others will want to learn by integrating an interdisciplinary approach to problem solving. You have a problem. How do you get people to engage and learn in the AR skills that are needed for this future economy? And how do you make it relevant to people that don't really see themselves engaging in it, but they probably have an interest that aligns with it? Well, first, really just explore. You just explore the trends and the interests that are out there. Listen to people, talk to people, see where they're at. What are they doing already with the limited resources that they have? And then from there, just reimagine it. And that's the responsibility that you as educators and creators have, is to reimagine possibilities by thinking outside the box and looking at these trends that are happening in real time right in front of you. It is asking, what if I just did this with it? You just tweak it. I, to pay homage to Virgil Abloh, he has this talk where he talks about true innovation comes from those, or true innovators only have to tweak something 3% to make it innovative and to make it new. And I think that really speaks to the reimagination part, where If you could just think of, what if you changed it just 3%? What can you create and what can you do? And then from there, it's really about just bridging those gaps. So making those connections across a variety of disciplines and integrating as many interests that you have as possible. Your goal is, after you reimagine, you just have to literally lay it out for people sometimes, where you say, okay, you have this idea and you see that this idea exists in one arena. If you just add animation to it, then it'll exist in a whole nother arena, and there's a whole gap in connection that was made there. You just literally just laying it out for people and showing people how to do it, and talking about it, introducing them to it. That is very powerful, because that is inspiration. That's accessibility now. And so once you bridge those gaps, you really have to really test it out yourself. You can't share something and you can't put something out into the world or tell people about it if you can't explore it and create with it. And so just really just give yourself the time to create and fully engage in this creative journey, and come out with something creative that you could share based off of your idea. And when you have that deliverable, then it's your duty, it's your responsibility to contribute to this sort of global economy of thought leaders and creators and entertainers that are just putting things out for us to be inspired by. And so this is really just tapping in with your community, engaging with your community, and contributing to trends that spark interest and provide inspiration for others. And then after you contribute, then you revisit all this, your journey itself. You revisit the creative process and reflect on it. Reflect on the skills that were required and the process that was required to create these things. And think again, like, what can you do to turn this into a memorable experience and a formative experience for others to have? You probably got something from it. You probably learned stuff, but now it's time to share, and it's time to revisit and helm this thought leader educator role that you have. And you do that by education. And so you go out and you take the things that you learned and you go back to your community, you go back to the people that you are trying to teach, go back to a community, and you educate them. You integrate the projects that you did into your teaching methodology by developing learning objectives and developing assignments. What is a step-by-step guide that you used to go from a blank canvas to creating the project that we see in front of us? It's literally just walking people through how to apply skills that they will develop and continue to master over the course of their career. Because we work in this project-based economy for online learning and education, being able to take something that people are willing to pay for and willing to spend time watching as entertainment, opening up the hood, and then showing how that was made step by step, that is very, very powerful. And being able to make that accessible allows for a new generation of creators to be born. Because prior to that, you had to have an internship, you had to go to a certain school, you had to have access to certain things in order to explore your ideas. And in this world now, you need to have ideas to explore. You could get the skill set, you could get anything else on YouTube. The hard part is, what ideas do you explore? And that's where this educational approach comes in, where in order to find these ideas, you have to be tapped in with your community. You have to engage in the world around you, and then you have to reimagine the world in this framework that you are developing as a creator. And so, again, my name is Stephen Christian. I am a Unity certified instructor. I'm a medical student, a XR creator, and I'm the owner of Iltopia Studios. And if you want to learn more about my work, or if you want to see a whole bunch of different examples, I post a lot of stuff, and I'm always creating things. You can go to my website, www.stuckonisland.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, it's at @StuckOnAnIsland. So it's the same as my domain name. And if you want to reach out to me via email, it's steven@iltopia.com. And so, again, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the opportunity to share just my approach to AR education and entertainment. And I really hope that you learned a lot from it. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to me, post them in the chat. And I'm always interested in connecting with other creators or educators or anybody that is just interested in just thinking outside the box. So again, my name is Steven Christian, and I really appreciate it. Uh-oh, I don't think we can hear you. Uh-oh. Allison, I don't think we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I apologize. I've had trouble with StreamYard. I would say that my favorite line from you is the innovation requires imagination.
Oh, yes.
And that I love that you told a story, because that's always the way to connect these days.
Yeah. I think the thing that's always stuck with me is that this whole concept of when you're trying to learn, like when you're reading a book, you're trying to study for something, it's really difficult to remember the information. Like, and I have major test anxiety. And so I was just like, dang, I went over this like 5 times and I still can't remember it. But if I see like a movie, or if I listen to like a song, I can listen to that maybe once or watch it once, and I can remember so much from it. And I think it's because of that intersection of like storytelling and being culturally relevant and really allowing us to explore our imaginations. Those things just really stick with us. And so my journey has always been like, how do I find a happy medium between that education and that entertainment? And just sprinkle a little bit of technology into it and see where it goes.
No, I think you found it. I have the same test anxiety, and I'm realizing I have to look at what other people are doing in order for me to fully understand what it is I need to know. Are your installations still available that you created?
Yes.
Out on the...
Yeah, so Island Fever right now is available on the App Store, so you could download it. And
Oh, that's awesome.
a
Okay.
lot of the experiences that I've done for clients, they just live out in the ether, of the internet space. But on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, and YouTube, I post a lot of like behind the scene processes and time lapse videos of me creating things, and in most of the projects I do have available. And so if you just go on the website, just go on Instagram or Twitter, just hit me up. I'm always sharing stuff. So
I'm definitely gonna do that. I also woke up when you talked about being able to offer something out into the world without having to jump through the hoops of the physical limitations, or the reports and all of that. So I love that part of it. So it's all really, really interesting. If there's anything else you'd like to add, please do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I'm a medical student right now, and it's really interesting to see this intersection of emerging tech, specifically AR and VR, growing as I like get deeper into the field of medicine, because I'm learning that like just the approach that I've taken with developing this skill is becoming more and more sought after as I just further go down this path. And I think it's really formative for me as an educator, because this isn't something that I expected going into it, right? Like it just sort of, this all just kind of happened. And And because things are always happening, right? There's new job roles that are coming in AR and VR.
People don't even know exist. And then
Yeah, that people don't even know exist. Like I'm learning about it, like as I've been in the space, I'm teaching things and I'm learning more about roles in and of themselves. It's like, I didn't even know this was a role. This is cool. And so really just being connected with people and being tapped in with, just your surroundings, but then still creating, like still leveling up your skills, still exploring these things, right? It's a never-ending journey that like I think I just feel very fortunate to just be in the space that I'm at and have the opportunity to just introduce people to things that I've just sort of learned along my journey.
Exactly. Yeah, I call that using it in a sentence.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
using it in a sentence now so that everybody can see what it is.
Yeah.
And it's great that you just are able to jump into it and show everybody, because that's really what we need. We just need, people need to use it. We're again, over and over, we're at the beginning, we're at the beginning, we're at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you'll just be way out ahead when it's time. So again, thank you. And we appreciate you coming to the Global XR Conference. And thank you to everyone that's helped us today and helped me today. And I look forward to what you're going to do next.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks again for allowing me to just share my story, and hopefully this is the start of just more endeavors.
All right. We'll see you later.
Have a good one.